Before you put yourself in any rapid, you want to make sure you've read the water well. You want to read the water from where you're starting out all the way to where you're going to end up. Being able to read a rapid that's class 3 and up requires a lot more skill than reading class 1 and 2. Some of the challenges you're going to find are horizon lines you can't see over. You're also going to find that the rapids and the waves and the features are bigger, hiding the features behind them. The objective with river reading in class 3, 4, and 5 is to be able to identify landmarks and know each feature before you get to it. Anytime you're running a river, whether you know it or not, you're boat scouting. Whether you're running the most familiar drop you've ever been on, you're paddling down, you're still scoping things out ahead and seeing where you're going. One of the key elements to safely boat scouting is don't run the river faster than you can read the water. You need to make sure that you have time to read the water, to check for any new trees, to check for anything that you're not familiar with, to be able to eddy out and stop if necessary before it's too late. So basically, one of the key elements to doing it safely as you get on harder water is just make sure you slow things down enough and you know that you've got all the information you need to get to the next eddy and the next place where you can boat scout. Now, one of the biggest things between easy water and as the water gets harder in boat scouting is the fact that the horizon lines get steeper, meaning you can't see the bottom of the rapid as easy. So in order to make that work where you can get to the top of a rapid and still read enough of the rapid to get down through it without getting out of your boat, you need to get as close to the edge of the horizon line as possible. Now, with that said, you need to do it in a place that you're guaranteed you can go up, you can look, and you can back away from it without committing yourself to the rapid. Usually there's eddies on the side of the river or sometimes in the middle of the river. You can paddle to the bottom of the eddy, put your hand on a rock, look downstream, and you can see, okay, cool, the coast is clear. No longer do you see just the horizon line, but you see the bottom of the drop, no logs, no rocks, clean to go, and then off you can go. Now, when is it time to get out of the boat? Well, remember, when in doubt, scout. So if you can't see the bottom of a drop, or you don't see the next good eddy, or you're not sure you can make that line easily from where you are, get to shore, get out, and get the full picture from the shore. Now, when we're scouting from shore, here's a couple things to remember. Well, number one, you need your shoes. Proper shoes are key. I'll tell you, I know more people that are banging themselves up scouting rapids than in the rapids. Why? Because when you're on the shore, rocks tend to be slippery, banks tend to be steep, rocks can be loose. I've seen more people fall, bang their arms, hurt their shoulders, hurt their knees, simply because they're not wearing the right kind of shoes or watching where they step. So when you're walking around, wear the right equipment and make sure that you watch and take the scout itself seriously, because that's as dangerous or maybe even more dangerous than running the rapid. Another piece of equipment to remember to bring is your throw rope. You don't want to be halfway down the river scouting, have one of your buddies enter the rapid only to realize that you're standing there with no throw rope and they need your help. So remember, when you're scouting, you're ending up towards the bottom of the rapid, you need to be ready. You need to have a rope with you. You never know when you're going to need it. When you scout a rapid from shore, you're going to see a line from one spot. You're going to be on a rock, you're going to look, you're going to see a line. If it's at all difficult rapid, or you're having any second thoughts about how things are going to happen, or if there's any particular dangers like an undercut or a tree that you're going to be trying to avoid, don't stop there. Find a second vantage point that you can look at. The vantage point could be right at the danger, or just from a different angle, from more upstream or more downstream. Get that second opinion, because what you're going to find sometimes are rapids that you thought were good to go. All of a sudden you'll have second doubts. But also you're going to find sometimes the rapids where you were thinking of walking, and you get a second look at it and you realize, oh, that's not as bad as I thought. I can make that line, or I see a new line. So it goes both ways, but that second vantage point is key. Also, when you're scouting and you're talking with your friends about how you want to run the rapid, make sure you've already made a safety plan, meaning you've already discussed where and who's going to be on safety, if you need to have somebody on safety, what the plan is going to be for getting somebody out, which rock, do they have a rope, do you have a rope, okay, who's going to go first, after the one person goes, who's going to get on the rope then, should you get out of your boat and walk up and set safety. These are some of the kind of things you need to work out before you go up and start running the rapid. If you're the only one that's going to run a rapid, just remember that you're the only one running the rapid. So what are your rest of your buddies doing? Well, you would like to have them for safety, and if you need safety, I highly recommend that you don't put the burden on them to determine how to make you safe. So why don't you take the time while you're scouting, make sure that they're willing to help out and they want to do this and they're comfortable with you running the drop. If they are, go ahead and take some of the burden off of them by pointing in all the right spots where you want the safety set and where you think they might need to be. That way, they don't have to feel the responsibility for that. They know that they're right where you want them to be, and then you'll also know where they are.
We're here at Jared's Knee on the Tellico River, the first real Class 4 that we've got in a long series of Class 3. And what makes this rapid so challenging, we've got some trees over there on the right-hand bank. Definitely don't want to go over there. And then we've got this kind of crack thing over here on the left side where you could potentially pin your kayak. We really don't want to go there either. So it's this weird situation where you pretty much got to go down the middle. So all the nice easy routes into the rapid, some of those might present you into the current that goes right, or you might have to start in the current that goes left. When I'm running a challenging rapid like this that has some danger spots, I try to get myself to the current that goes where I want to go at the bottom as soon as possible. So the best line here at Jared's Knee ends up being kind of out in the middle right from the start. And you aim for the wave right as the water breaks both ways. As long as I'm directly above that wave, I know that even if I flip, I'm going to go where I wanted to go and not have to make some last-minute ferry to run away from the dangers that make the rapid so challenging. In a rapid like this one where you have some spots that could really hurt or potentially kill you, you really need to stay well within your comfort zone. So people that would run hard Class 4 in a lot of different places where there's not nearly the consequences might want to take a look at those trees and this pin spot on the left and think about actually walking this one, because this one's not going to be just a skin knuckles like up in a diaper wiper. It's not going to be surfing the hole like Baby Falls. This is real life-threatening hazards. So anytime you're dealing with some life-threatening hazards, you need to make 100% certain that you're going to run the line. So think of it as being a much more difficult move because you absolutely have to make it.
I walked the rapid because I looked at it and had a pinning rock on one side and a strain on the other side. And I could do it, but I'm just a little nervous and consequences are a little too big for me.
Jared's Knee is also a good example of why you should always move down the river from eddy to eddy. You've got a lot of really good Class 3 rapids upstream, and you'll be moving down through those, just boat scouting your way down. But if you don't see that last chance eddy, you're going to wash in to Jared's Knee. And it's a much more difficult rapid than the rest of the rapids you've been facing. So you're going to want to get out and scout this one. The eddies above it, as you can see, are fairly small. So if you didn't see that eddy you were going to catch before you entered that drop, you might be at a loss for an eddy and end up going through this thing blind, which could be dangerous.
As the rivers you run start getting harder and the rapids start getting longer, reading water and memorizing all of the things in a rapid and all the moves you have to do becomes more difficult. However, there's a few tricks of the trade that you can do to slow things down and to give you time to recoup and gather your senses and figure out where you are and where you want to go next. The easiest way, number one, is to catch eddies. Now, as the rapids get harder, the eddies are going to get harder. One basic trick for getting into eddies and making eddies easier is instead of always trying to catch eddies from the outside, as the rapids get harder, start boofing into the eddies. Try to get up on the rocks so you can actually boof into the eddy. You don't have to catch it. Because as rapids start turning from Class 2 to 3 to 4 and into 5, most eddies start having holes on the side of them, meaning you're going to have to punch through a diagonal or try to boof a hole in order to get in the eddy to stop. Take that whole element of risk out, of missing a move, by hitting those eddies high or boofing on the rock that makes the eddy to begin with. A long rapid is a big thing to bite off in one piece. So by catching eddies, you're going to be able to break it apart. You're going to be able to look once you've got in the eddy and see your next move. However, when you've scouted, you're still going to find that you're going to be lost in a rapid if you don't pick some landmarks. So when you scout, make sure that you break the rapid into a starting point, a middle point, and an end. The starting point, you need a real landmark, especially if you've got a horizon line. It could be a little hump in the water, a curler, it could be a rock, it could even be some branches sticking out of the water. But you need a landmark to start with. At the middle point, same thing. You need to have a major landmark. It could be a hole, could be a rock, could be a tree, could be a wave, but make sure you have something very specific that you'll recognize when you get there. The same with the bottom of the rapid. You need to have a landmark that lets you know that you're at the end. So a landmark takes all the guesswork out. Otherwise, what'll happen, you'll get in the rapid and you'll start looking around. You're not going to recognize anything, and you're not going to know where in the rapid you are, and you're going to start missing moves because you don't know what moves you need to make. So the landmarks are the key to making long rapids a lot easier.